Hello everybody, it's Natalie here, and I just like to say welcome to the 7th chakra. I just feel excited to be at the crown. I do, I feel grateful. I feel very grateful. And as I had shared with you in my training, when we were working in the 6th and 7th chakra, we did that work together, working really in relationship to the nervous system and in relationship to trauma. And so here, it feels very important to stick to that way in which I like to work and what makes sense to me. And so I invite you here. You want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you. And here I am in my home space. That little tip-tap-toe is my little corgi. My husband's outside mowing the lawn, and I think that might be making him a little nervous again. And I just think about that dorsal energy, right? And so here we go. So when we think about the crown, purple, Sahasrara, thousandfold, the right to universal knowledge, and the shadow here, it's attachment. So that's just a process to think about attachment to maybe people, places, things, ideas. If I was to put the camera down, I have here my yoga mat. I'm sitting here working at the easel, but I'm surrounded in my bits. In the past, it could be like, oh my God, I got clutter, I got stuff everywhere, this, that. You know, I put those labels on here, and I allowed that on me, and now I see, oh my gosh, these are my bits. So I took a picture behind the scenes and showed my hubby and my friend Emily, my first guardian angel. She's like, oh gosh, all your wonderful stuff. Because everything I have surrounding me, I have some of my clients' little somatic selves that they didn't feel they could fully take care of, so I keep them safe while we're working together. And I have books and angel cards, and I've got some of the awesome Adatea's books. I've got a little painting I made, with my daughter. She's this incredible artist, like I was saying. I just was like painting, and this is, we're actually gonna do some like 3D stuff here. My girl is gonna help me, but when I first started making it, I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, it's like I'm still coloring, just like a little girl. And then I thought, but the depth here, and then the shadowing, and then honoring all the different ways in which we paint our worlds. And so, taking it now to the 7th chakra, universal knowledge, the way in which you want to call that, connecting to spirit. For me, it's very significant. I'm a Scorpio, been surrounded in grief and death from right out of the gate, and in doing hospice and in being so fortunate to feel very connected. I have tingles everywhere to energy, and I just feel very fortunate. And so how is it that you connect, and what does that feel like? And when my husband and I were getting together, it was like, he's an atheist, and he doesn't believe in this, doesn't believe in that. And I was like, all right, we got to come up with something. Love. He was like, I believe in love. And I was like, all right, that works for me. I believe in love too. And interestingly, love is the most difficult emotion. What? People are like, what? No, love is all you need. Well, love is very complicated because it involves all of the other emotions. Interesting. So on that note, and when we take it up into the crown chakra, sometimes we can be like, way too getting all this information, so open, and really detached from our ground. Or we can be closed off. So just want you to kind of think, okay, we're going to sprinkle it, have it just enough. And then in the sixth chakra, when I was closing, I said something really significant. And I want to kind of come back to it as we go up. We're talking about how we are looking for safety and clues from the first time we turn and look at our mother's face. And I thought that was very significant because I closed on that, and I want to say, I have many friends and clients who were adopted. My daughter didn't see my face for hours, and the first time she saw it was through a glass. She didn't see her dad's face. He saw her walking by with an bamboo bag, and she was not a color that seemed healthy. So it was scary. I don't know what it was like for her. And so those are experiences, and I say these things, I just say, oh, so from the time we see our mother's face to the time we die, it's just a sentence. But it's so much more for someone who didn't have a mother, or who was born in a different place than their biological family was. Or for myself, always looking for my mother. She wasn't really able to fully be here. And so now thinking about myself as a mother, how that was for my children, but to come from here for myself, and I'm asking you in relationship to yourself, masculine and feminine, mother, father. It's Father's Day weekend coming up, so I really want to honor the dads and honor all the ways in which our guardians, the people looking out for us, the people who parent us, have been here. And now how is it for you coming here? And so when we look at understanding thought, thousandfold, Sahasrara, it's the violet cerebral cortex, self-knowledge. I invite you to come to the ladder. So this is what we're going to do. So I wanted to ask you to just kind of hold out, coming from the 6 to the 7. I'm going to give you a few tools, and I want you to try them out, okay? So the ways in which we know we have our nervous system, the way it works, and looking at also in the chakras, often I ask, or what we were taught, is to draw your chakras. Take colors, doesn't need to be like the colors in relationship to the chakras, just really what comes up for you. Play some music, get your colors out, markers, crayons, color pencils, and find a big sheet of paper. Or maybe you could even attach 2 sheets. You could have a full body. And I want you to just start coloring. And it doesn't need to be like, oh, this is the perfect chakras, this is the way it is. I want us to like really be expansive and using that creative lens. I want us to color it the way that it looks for you. And so I was looking for my first chakra drawing, because when I brought it home, I put it right on the wall, and I had everybody look at it, and my kids were giggling. I might have shared this in the beginning, and my husband was like, "What?" And I knew I needed them to just see how raw I was. And I think that I did share this with you, because my kids were like trying to decide how old the person was who drew this. I said, it was me. This was really part. It was like a butterfly, and it looked like a butterfly angel, but really I saw that like the voice, the blue, was outside of my body, not really connected. There's so many different things. It was very brown at the bottom. There was a lot of red. Missing pieces. And the yellow was all outside my body. All outside, right? Fire for everybody else. So, then I drew another chakra picture after I had done so much work. So much different, more contained, so beautiful, but in the way, all of them were beautiful as we draw this. It's just information, our somatic self-speaking. And so when we can kind of connect in, go to town, I want you to try that. So what I did here is I incorporated the drawing, but I'm using it with our autonomic nervous system. And so this morning I did some of my bits, and I'd like to share it with you. And so this is why I didn't do a PowerPoint and I did some markers, because I want it to be very authentic, and because it helps me. Because it helps me. It helped me really make sense of things. And so here we go. So, just going to share, we talked already about the way that the nervous system works. And so here, when we come in, here's these arrows. This is the way that we're moving. And so when we're looking at immobilization, which is dorsal, and then we're coming through and we can see the sympathetic and mobilization. And then we have here safe. And this is when we're in the vagus. And so this is the way that the pattern and the pathway goes. And so here's a ladder. I want you to draw your nervous system in a ladder. And so when you're looking at this, I'm just going to bring it over here so we can do this together, co-regulating in reciprocity. See how I'm using all the terms? See how we got that going? So here's the ladder. And so just for fun, I gave the spaces in between, the same with the chakras. And I used some colors to kind of describe this so this could make sense, okay? So here, this is an example that Deb Dana gives. It's amazing. She talks about someone driving to work. They're driving to work, and all of a sudden, they hear an ambulance coming behind them, or is it a police car? They're not sure. They get really nervous, and then they say, oh, they're safe. It wasn't for them. Everything's okay. Come back. Calm down. Get to work. They get to work, and they can see that they don't really love their job, and they're kind of like, they go out to dinner later on that night, and they're having a nice time with everybody, and all of a sudden everyone's talking about vacation, and they just like kind of, then they detach from it because they're like, I don't have enough money to take vacation, I don't like my job, I'm not happy, and all of a sudden they go a little invisible, and everybody else is all in like the feel good Vegas, and they're all talking, and they're not aware that this individual has just kind of gone invisible. They go home, they feel really kind of bumming, and they're not happy, go to sleep, get up, they don't want to go to work, now they're like really low, like dorsal, but they drag themselves out, they get to work, they're late because they're just really struggling, their boss comes to remind them they're late, and that just compounds it, it feels really bad, but they have lunch plans, so they go to lunch, so like this, they meet with a friend they trust, a friend they like, a friend that like connects with them, starting to feel better, start discussing, I don't really like my job, I don't like mine either, why'd you get a better job, let's go talk about this, boom, 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 in Vegas, come back, feeling better, like, okay, this is great, and they decide to get a better job, and then they can go on vacation. Ladder. So it's ways in which we climb the ladder, because we will have dorsal days, low energy days. We will have fight or flight. We will have really connected days. But it's when we can bring in the co-regulation to all of those places. Once we drop so low and we can't come out, that's collapse. That looks like Dr. Peter Levine showed us this. These two individuals, they had IVs, they looked like emaciated, a failure to thrive, about 19 years old, these two women in the hospital, and they were being sent out of the country that they fled to for safety, and they just knew they had to go back home, and their whole body systems just shut down, and it looked like they were near death. The video and the picture they showed us, dorsal collapse, shut down. So really the work is about not getting to that shutdown place and finding ways to climb the ladder. And so even for like just different ways to play. So I had said earlier, my husband came in, he was singing. Well, maybe in the past I was much more raw on the outside and not as like grounded and in all the places. So that might have looked different, but here I finished my video, heard him singing, knew that would be adorable. Love to have a husband come home singing. What a beautiful experience I get to have. So that ladder. All right, I heard him coming. I figured out how I could end it on a note, not too dysregulated, moving on. And my husband was like, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Like, it was great. They got to hear you sing. Now, when I start again, when you come in, be singing. If you're coming kind of, that might be harder. So I can also say that. Instead of, I have no needs, it's okay. No, I am filming. But when you sing, that makes us all happy too. Climbing the ladder. Is it making sense? So we have ways we're going to color and draw our chakras. Now, let's think about the ladder. So when we're up at the top, it's ventral vagus, right? And I'm just going to fix this. And when we think about that, Vegas, like Vegas, interestingly, to wander. That's what that means. So even thinking about how that feels, not wandering like I'm so lost, but like to wander and, really to explore. So when we're up at the top, we're in connection. And then when we come into sympathetic, if there's a trauma break and there's dysregulation, something happens that really triggers you. Well, now fear, guilt, shame, grief, lies, illusions, attachments, any of those triggering, now we're in fight or flight. And then if that actually gets even deeper, now we come down into dorsal. And in that more primitive vagus, the dorsal, and we're not in ventral. Well, now shut down. Path of last resort, dissociation problems with memory, depression, isolation, no energy, heart disease, weight gain, weight issues, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, diabetes, inflammation, and the list goes on and on. But just to give you an explanation. So the ways in which when I say trauma break, well, I think you saw when I get like a charge, right? When I talk about certain hard things that I was guarded against in the past, now that I've been able to stretch and be able to be in that space and make sense and not get hijacked by, oh my God, I gotta get out of here, this is really uncomfortable, or oh my God, I have to, I can't talk, or oh my God, I don't wanna. It's those ways. It's not a brain thing. The nervous system is not a brain thing, it's a brain thing. We'd all figure this out. You guys are amazing, so am I. It's a nervous system thing, and we are really tracking, so we have these old paved patterns. Not anymore, because we've shifted them. You're doing really ding! Angels, special and amazing work. So as I was writing this, I thought, okay, this could be fun. So I made the ladder surrounded by orange. What's that? Second chakra. The right to? That's right, your own needs. What's the shadow? Guilt. So I was like, okay, so the ladder, I think my whole ladder is surrounded by my needs. I get to have needs. I'm not so needy, but I have needs. I have needs, and I have fire, so I gave some yellow, and I have all of the ways in which I can climb up top, ventral vagal. I put the 6th and the 7th chakra, right? The way that I can see through discernment. That was a very hard word for me at first, in all this work. But to discern, and also to think about what I'm attached to, what is the attachment, and what is the illusion. And so then, as I was writing and drawing this, I was thinking to myself, so beautiful, because a healthy journey with the sympathetic and with using the parasympathetic and the dorsal, we get to have a healthy journey and experience well-being with emotional flexibility. So I created this arrow with all the chakra colors because the key is emotional flexibility, to really work that. So I want you to just start thinking, this is how we connect or how we disconnect. So this is the ladder, and I want you to try to climb it. Okay, so I had a client say to me, well, when I first started with your 6, 3, 9, I found that was a long time to hold my breath out, to release my breath out. And that whole process of breathing seemed very long. But I did it because I wanted to do this training. I trust you. You asked me to. That's great. How is it now? Well, now it's very easy for me. I've actually played with it. I come up with different types of breathing that work for me. I actually like to match it. Really, so something that was hard that you decided to do because you knew it would help you, even though it was hard and discomfort came. You stretched it, and then as you found your own way, you've created something that works just right for you. And you're sharing it with me, somebody who you've asked to help and be a sponsor of witnesship. And I said a witnesship. I think that's a new word, witnesship. So witnessing and a sponsorship, witnesship. I love it. So there it is, though. Climb the ladder. In co-regulation, discomfort, stretching it. Okay? So we have the chakra drawing. We have the ladder. And I like to give colors. You can decide what works, but I decided that the ventral vagal with blue, it's soft, it's connected, and I always feel like with light, when I think about light and universal knowledge for skin and for psoriasis and a whole host of skin conditions, the UV light, a little bit of sun, actually, and vitamin D is actually very healing and good for you. And I know that we have to all be mindful, responsible in the ways that it works for us and with what we choose to put on our skin, but a little bit of that really is healing. And they found that ultraviolet light is so helpful with acneic skin and with psoriasis and eczema and a variety of different skin conditions. So blue, I think of it and I think, oh gosh, all of this beautiful. I always think of Archangel Michael too with all the blue, and so it's so wonderful. And so I wanted to use ventral blue. And then I thought, well, dysregulation and thinking about fight or flight, yellow, right? And thinking about the sympathetic, well, the green, sympathy, sympathetic, feel sense, heart chakra. And so that just worked. And then the dorsal and the primitive vagus down here, but the dorsal with the red, I was thinking about fear, and I was thinking about the root chakra, and really deep pigment in red, very powerful, and thinking about the blood and life and vitality and emotions and that real passionate color, and interesting the stop sign. Stop. So I'd love to know what colors you choose. I was listening, and I'm in my teachers in regards to different ways that the colors and the patterns that others students have used. I felt that these colors would work. So you can let me know what you do and what comes up for you and how you want to start naming them. You get to decide. Oh, well, my sympathetic nervous system might be more I'm going to call it this. My dorsal, I'm going to call it this. My ventral vagal, I'm going to call it this. Make it your own, okay? I'm just going to come in here with you because this is very exciting. So here, safe and social, parasympathetic, ventral vagal, here at the edge of where we're going, right? Immobilized sympathetic, immobilized parasympathetic. So here, it's almost like a stream. It's going to be a stream on the next sheet. But now I want to share with you a few more bits. Because when we look at this, there's no face on here. We'll put a smile. I love this this beautiful, beautiful yogi who I learned from and said, when you're working on somebody, smile from your liver. Smile from your liver when you're sending someone love. Smile from your liver when you're thinking of someone. So I would be working on people and I could feel, and I would just smile from my liver. So take a second here, sixth chakra. Think about the liver, sucking out all the toxins, all the things the liver does. Think about where the liver is in your body. Take a second and try it with me. smile from your liver. It just really fills me up because I can really feel. Oh, I even made a noise. Digestion's moving. Liver's working. Okay, back to this. So here we go with my beautiful, beautiful little drawing who doesn't want to show us her face. How about that? I know they're smiling from their liver. So here we go. So I don't know if you can see the yellow, but I made a highway. So this little fun friend is on a highway. So you see it? There you go. And so there are 3 lanes of the highway moving up the body, 1 down. And so when we look at this, the green lanes coming from body to brain are the afferent neurons. Sensory neurons, sensing a stimulus, sending information to the central nervous system. Sensory, smell, feelings, pain, moves up the spinal cord and into the brain. Even thinking about the fingertips, how much? The fingertips, all these little sensations and neurons. Amazing, amazing. So those are the afferent neurons. 80% of our neurons are afferent, going up 1, 2, 3 times on the highway from body to brain, okay? Now, we got this 1 from brain to body, efferent. Afferent with an A, efferent neurons. 20% of our neurons are efferent. Motor neurons. They carry signals away from the central nervous system to initiate action. Sensory input is brought into the brain, and if it sends signals for a motor response to your muscles, your glands, it's the afferent neurons. So, ready? Here we go. We're in a situation, and this is where we talk about the story. The story. And the sense. Sense precedes story. Because we have 80% afferent neurons. They're sensory neurons. So we get a feel sense, and we don't have the whole story. Is it our story? What's the lens? Where's the discernment? It's coming fast. The efferent neurons, come back in. 3 lanes up, you get flooded. You could see how you could get flooded with hormones, right? With overwhelming feelings, with all of this sensation, and you can't slow it down. Because it's 80% up, 20% down, brain to body. Oh my gosh, I could have just started with that, right? It's just significant. But it's really nice for us to go all the way through this journey. Chakra 1, Chakra 2, Chakra 3, Chakra 4, Chakra 5, and Chakra 6. To have all the feel sense. And then to get to Chakra 7, right at the precipice, I say to you, well, we have 80% afferent nerves. Feel sense coming up, 80%. 20% brain to body, motor. I should have started with that. Just kidding. Right? Powerful. So here we have a 3-lane highway coming up, 1 lane going down. I often think of it in a way of our throat. All this information bottlenecked in this little place to have to come out. That's a lot. So we got to clear it out, really to get our true voice out. Well, when we want to really know what the story is, what's happening, we could be over flooded with hormones and emotion, and if there's a trauma that's related to the trigger of what's happening, well, now we've got a break. And so when we're at that vagal break, that's when the in connection with another leaves, because the person actually has to turn it off because they can't handle the charge of what's about to happen. So that's a lot I just said. Okay? So I want you to think about that. I want you to draw a little picture. So you've got your ladder, you've got your afferent and your efferent neurons, and then you've got, if you're not going to draw it, just take a second. Just kind of like when you're feeling a charge, you're feeling it somewhere in your body, I want you to stop for a second and think, where am I? What's the me here? What's the feel sense? Look around the room. Even take a second right now. We're going to do this little 6th chakra, 6th, 7th. I told you we were kind of up here. And like move your eyes up to the left, down to the right. Bring it back up to the right, down to the left. Try it again. Notice which ways feel good. We're just connecting in a little brain gym here. Close your eyes. It's powerful information, isn't it? What's your ladder like? I'm really hitting you with a lot of stuff. You can hit pause at any time. I'll still be here. I do that. I have, in order to graduate from my program, I decided to make a project, and I called it Little Book of Spa Speak. 70 pages. My clients gave me permission, and I just was able to see how story, trauma, skin connected. And it was so much, and my incredible, incredible teacher, right? New York Times bestseller 11 times. It's incredible. Well, she wants it to be amazing. She will do anything to help her students. So she was like, I can't help you get to the way that I want this to be and for you to graduate on time. What else do you have? Well, then I came up with a whole nother hundreds of pages of a book I was writing. Story of my life, the chakras. That was pretty powerful. And then again, just more. I'm always like, more, right? When I went back and I had told you that the way in which my trauma showed up really was, well, I had to be either perfect, right? That wasn't going to happen. So I had to be more than enough, and I had to make sure everybody was safe. I had to make sure I had all the information so that everybody would be okay. You know, they tricked my father when they murdered him. He thought he was going to see his friends. He thought he was going to be able to do this last bit. I think my mother wanted out of that lifestyle. They were very young, 27. And she took my brother and I somewhere safe. The city was just too much. And the story has it that my father did a job, and he made some bad choices, and it was risky, but he was able to get the money that he needed, and there was a chance that he was going to flee with us, take us to Ireland. But what he had done was not very, I guess, clear to him. But he found out later that he had made a choice that was going to take his life. So the next day, somebody asked him to meet his friend somewhere. And, well, my legs are coming up right now as I'm telling the story. Thank you for being here with me. But when he got there, they tricked him. And there were, I don't know, I think 5 of them that killed him. The book is written, and there's a chapter, so my brother found it, and my legs are coming up again. I'm gonna just give myself my heart to hand connection, right? I can go to the back of my neck. I can come to my abdomen. If I'm in my sympathetic, I can put my hands right behind my back, mid-back. No, that's my sympathetic. But you know, here, heart to face feels good. And my father fought for 15 minutes. All of them, and they still couldn't kill him. Then they moved his body for 2 weeks, different locations. It's real trauma. I didn't know him the way that my mother did. But yet his blood, right? My blood. And the survival. I ran the New York Marathon. I ran right by the BQE bridge, where they put him in a taxi cab to let the 2 other people that my father was working with know they were coming for him next. I have a dear friend, a beautiful friend Kathy, that got me into that marathon. I ran it alone. My husband, interesting. My husband was taking care of the kids. They had a big soccer tournament, so my mom, she helped me. And I ran that in honor for my father and for all of the individuals who raised money for a center in Manhattan. A center for violent victims who are displaced. And I think I had shared this story, right? My husband helped me raise money really fast. And I can remember when I was running under the bridge. Almost no more energy left in my body. I remember my father carried me many times that marathon. And I hope that this training will carry you. And then you can carry money if you ever need to. I'll be here to help you. And this is what I mean by taking it right to the vagal break. I can tell this story now. I can get all the way through it. The resource is you, me. The awareness that my legs are coming up, I can bring my body back down, calm myself down, find my heart space, and really touch myself. Not just like do it, but really embody it. Smiling from my liver and bringing that joy, connecting into the heart math. We've done so much in this training. You've made it. You've come all the way. I feel that for you. Do you feel that for you? And I'm climbing the ladder, and I can feel now hot, releasing old energy. Sometimes it's locked in fire. Adrenals can get overwhelmed. Sometimes it's locked in cold. And now we know the sympathetic heat regulation. Right? And in the sympathetic, what do? Right? Fight or flight. But with the vagal connection, you're with me. I'm with me. I can feel the grief coming up left side of my body. I'm naming all these things. I hope you're going to try this. I'm right here with you if you want to do it. So I'm going to put my hand on the back of my heart. And in the crown chakra. When I was graduating from college, for cell phones, I got a letter. Found out my mother was alive. I'd seen her once over the past few years at a hotel. I took John. It was a pretty rough hotel, but I wanted him to meet her if we were going to be together, which I knew we were. But I'd made a promise to myself and to God, to my higher power, that if I ever found my mother, I would forgive her. I would want to be there with her. So I believe in forgiveness, forgiving ourselves. I got a letter. My mother, after this whole experience, she had been hit by a taxi cab in Manhattan. They were working on the cab. They had it up on a jack, and it got loose down a hill, across the street, pinned my mother against the wall. For hours, I couldn't get it off my mother. The taxi cab. She wasn't ever going to walk again. She wasn't going to survive. But I told you about my mother, didn't I? She survived the first week of 9 surgeries, many surgeries more. She lived for 2 years in a hospital that was really for like John Doe's, is what they used to call it. It's not there anymore. Roosevelt Island, Goldwater. I'd never known Roosevelt Island in Manhattan. But it's where John and I went to see my mother. First time she was truly sober. That accident saved her life because she couldn't get heroin, her drug of choice, which I never knew. She hid that. Shocking. but understandable now that I understand about opioids, about the nervous system, and about trauma and the depletion of our hormones, and the dysregulation and the need to just be. So my mother overcame a horrible addiction, overcame so much trauma, overcame a physical trauma, being pinned up against a wall, taxi cab. 20 years sober after that, helped many people right to the end. I'm lucky to be my mother's daughter. I can say that. And she's lucky to have me for a child. And I believe in forgiveness. I always forgave her. At the end of her life, I held her hand and I really tried to help her forgive herself. And I think that she found peace. I wasn't there when she died. I knew that's how it was going to be. Maybe she saved me from that trauma. Another beautiful woman and many beautiful people were there with her. I wanted to be, but I don't think that she could have left me again. It just didn't happen. I didn't leave for months and months and months. They said that she opened her eyes and she smiled before she died. I think she found peace. And I'm so grateful to have had forgiveness, to have had this experience. Thank you for hearing my story. I have this opportunity. And so I'm really feeling just grief here. I feel it in my face. My lips are a little numb. I don't feel dysregulated though. My breath, I'm with you, with myself. And I feel like the resource that I carry on this ladder myself, well, for me, it's really my higher power. Angels, I believe in God, whatever God is for you, love, humanity, human resilience, hope, humor, cute corgis, golden retrievers. And so when we take this bit, I hope that you'll write down your story. I'd love to hear it, however it is. And I hope you just take a second. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for showing up. I think I'm gonna maybe put a little tear there and a little smile on our little smiling from the liver face. I want you to just have one more bit. Perception to neuroception plus discernment. This lens. You just watch me do it to get all the way through that. There's some tears and I feel that grief in my back, but I have joy in my heart and I have this connection and I feel all in my experience. I feel alive. This work is about well-being, being well, homeostasis, balance, and aliveness. And so here's this river. We had an arrow before, but here's the river. And we're going here downstream. And when we enter physiological state, it's creating the psychological story. So neuroception, perception, state, feelings, behavior, story. Your internal surveillance system begins the sequence of events that eventually leads the way you are feeling, acting, thinking. The story you inhabit. It begins far away from the thinking brain. and in the autonomic nervous system with a neuroception of safety, danger, or life threat. So here when we begin the story, there's a break, a trigger, and we lose ourselves. If we can bring the resource in, we can keep going down. But when we have the break, that's the trigger, danger. And so there are so many bits that I've shared with you. Let's think about something from you. Let's think about something that might feel. Everything's going along well, and then something happens. And now there's like something else comes in. We have a break in the water. It's almost like if I could put a little X there, there's a rupture and a bump, and part of us leaves, but something else comes back. So when something else comes back, I'd love you to bring in a resource. So as I was sharing this story, I was going downriver with you, I just kept, anytime I felt the bump, I would take a breath. I had my hand on my heart. I had my heart-face connection, my hand on my back. I was not hiding when my legs were coming up. I was saying, oh, my legs are coming up. I have this community here on the other side that knows what that means. Maybe someone else will be like, so what? Your legs are coming up. What are you talking about, lady? Well, in the past, blah, blah. Instead, they know what I'm talking about. When I'm pulling my legs up, it's a sign of fear. It's deeply rooted. And to notice this connection here, to connect here. Not that that person isn't worthy, but that is dysregulation. I'm going to go out. I'm going to break out. The resource is you. My people. I'm your people too. And so here we begin to add in our resources, becoming a skilled discernment editor with our 6th chakra lens, illusion, the right to one's own vision, co-regulation in purple, 7th chakra. Our human nature is to recognize, interact, and form relationships with others. Connection. It's wired in biologically. It's a biological necessity. And so here, I did make a little face earlier. You know, it's not that great. It makes me laugh because it looks like crazy, but it's a little tear. Because here I wrote, the connection is wired in biologically, this biological necessity. When we feel alone in the world, we suffer. When chronic, medical and mental health, the risks multiply. Cardiovascular disease, death, exaggerated inflammatory responses. It's a loneliness loop. That's when I made the sad face. Cognition decline, sleep disturbances. The loneliness loop. Well, I'm right here if you need anything. Anadea has a rainbow tribe. She's building her warrior tribe. You know, self-compassionate care. We've got this. And so here in this river, and we start going to the mouth of the river, often the story's here. Someone comes, they're telling you something, there's always reactions, but you don't even know what they're really going to say yet. But you already know, and your perception, and you're in the story, and you've got the response, you're all defensive. Nothing's even, you don't even know yet. So we have that awareness and the acceptance that maybe there's some triggers, and maybe this story is related to something that's very disconnected for you, and there's a block. And here, when Peter Levine describes this, I'm going to do this here in green marker. Here you are, la la la, and you're going down your river of life, la 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 la. And all of a sudden there's this big rock that you hit, and you break out. There's a break, and when you come back in, there's a different story happening. Trigger, you're out, and now maybe. So I just want you to bring in a resource. What's our resources? Well, we are aware of our somatic body, our chakra body. We have the shadows, we have the rights, we have the feeling, we have the vu, we have the breathing. We have different sounds that we can make, different breaths. We've got the 639, we've got each other. Let's see, we've got drawing, we've got singing, we've got writing, we've got journaling, we've got dancing, we've got yoga, we've got the breath body, we've got the massage techniques, we've got the acupressure, we've got the reflexology. Can I get a hallelujah? We've got a lot. We have more than enough. And so here, this is when I say phone a friend. If you need something, phone a friend. And remember all of this great bits. So here, I'm gonna end with this. We're gonna do one more session. And this is what I was saying earlier, is that when I did all of this work to graduate, right at the end, right before class was coming, I was like, I have chakra facials. And Adea's like, great, send them over. And I love you, Anadea, but I had done them, but I hadn't written it out. So, of course, my daughter puts her editor hat on, and I'm like, let's go. Whip that out. But it was when I finished, I had to hand it over. I was really struggling. And Reeve, who I've talked about so much, she's an amazing, amazing healer. She was like, with her beautiful English accent, Natalie, hand it to me. Give this to me. I want to do this on someone. Just tell me what to do. I can do the accent even more. She lets me because I love it. But I just really wanted to do it with her, like there. And as here's this person who I love and trust so much, of course I want her to have this. I was handing it, and it was somatic. I wasn't really handling it, and I couldn't. And I looked up and I was like, I'm afraid. I'm afraid that someone is going to do this work on somebody and they're not going to know everything that I'm trying to teach them, because maybe I didn't teach them well enough, and someone's going to get hurt. So there, when I say that, going down, 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 all of a sudden I hit a big bump in the water. I got knocked off. There was a breach in the side of the river. I'm afraid someone's going to get hurt. I didn't do enough. Well, my father went to go help. He thought us, and he got hurt. He killed. And I couldn't get my mom to stay. And then she got very hurt. That hurt actually helped her survive. And so I think that was a big shift for us to really understand resilience and overcoming. And often if you or anybody hears dealing with addiction, we didn't cause it, we can't control it, and we can't change it. And so acceptance and surrender is a big, big, big part of that story. I love this book, Hope for Today. I read this often. And so when that bump in the road comes, what do we bring in? What's our resource? And so as I'm sharing this with you, and I'm saying, bringing in that resource in that bump in the road with Reeve, I saw, I'm afraid, but I am not fully responsible for everybody. I can't be. So either people get to do this work, which is really awesome, and they get to be at choice, and they get to do what they need or not, and it's enough, or I can't do it at all. So I was able to really kind of connect in with myself. But I needed to breathe. I needed another person, someone I trusted, someone that could be there with me. So I want you to just think about those things, okay? I want you to just think about the ways in which you get kind of dysregulated. There's a breach in the water. You're going down. Something happens. You go out. How do you come back in? And when you come back in, is it like more defensive? Is it more like withdrawal? What about if it is? Well, when you come back in and you feel that, how about that resource is, I've got my training. I got this. Let me go back, slow it down. Use your tools. Hope for today. Namaste. Seventh chakra. Purple. Love, purple. I love you. And I love you too, Natalie.